I always thought losing your wife happened in private. Turns out it's a spectator sport. My name is Ethan Vale, and I'm sitting in Cafe Luna watching my marriage get dismantled by committee. The coffee's bitter, the lighting's harsh, and my wife Tessa has brought her entire social circle to witness what she probably thinks is my execution. Ethan, we need to talk, she'd said this morning, her voice carrying that artificial sweetness she reserves for difficult conversations. Meet me at Luna at 3. I should have known something was wrong when I walked in and saw them all there, Tessa's inner circle arranged like a tribunal. Gia Martinez, the schemer with her perfectly manicured nails drumming against her latte cup. Mallory Chen, the enabler who treats gossip like currency. Priya Patel, the wannabe influencer who documents every moment of her life except the ones that matter. And Isla Thompson, the wild card who used to date Dylan Reed before he became my wife's latest obsession. Dylan's here too, naturally. 34 years old, trust fund baby masquerading as an entrepreneur, leaning back in his chair like he owns the place. His vintage leather jacket probably cost more than my monthly salary as a project manager at Henderson & Associates. So, Tessa begins, her voice carrying across the cafe like she's addressing a board meeting. We've been talking, and we decided you're not really my type anymore. I need someone more ambitious, more exciting. The table goes quiet. Even the espresso machine seems to pause its hissing. I can feel the weight of their collective stare, waiting for me to crumble, to beg, to make a scene that'll give them something to post about later. Instead, I take a slow sip of my coffee and set the cup down with deliberate precision. Thanks for the group decision, I say, my voice steady as granite. I'll be sure to remember that. The reaction is immediate. Gia's drumming stops mid-tap. Mallory's mouth falls open slightly. Priya actually looks up from her phone. Even Dylan shifts forward, his smug expression flickering with uncertainty. Tessa blinks, clearly thrown off script. That's it? You're not going to fight for us? I stand up, pulling a $10 bill from my wallet and placing it next to my cup. Fight for what? A wife who needs her friend's permission to make decisions about her own marriage? No thanks. The silence stretches like a rubber band about to snap. I can see the panic starting to creep into Tessa's eyes. This isn't how she scripted this scene. She wanted drama, tears, maybe some public begging that would cement her position as the victim in whatever narrative she's been crafting. Ethan, wait, she starts, but I'm already walking away. Enjoy your committee meeting, I call back without turning around. The afternoon air hits my face like a slap of reality. 3 years of marriage, ended by group consensus in a hipster cafe. I should feel devastated, humiliated, broken. Instead, I feel something else entirely. Something cold and calculating that's been sleeping in the back of my mind for months, maybe years. Tessa thinks she just won. Her little council of enablers thinks they just witnessed an execution. They have no idea what they just started. My phone buzzes as I walk to my car, a text from my sister Lena. How'd the mysterious coffee date go? I type back, that was the shot. Now for the war. 3 dots appear, then disappear. Lena knows me well enough to recognize the tone. She also knows me well enough not to ask questions when I'm in this mood. I drive home to my apartment in downtown Portland, a converted warehouse space that Tessa always complained was too industrial, too masculine. She preferred Dylan's place in the Pearl District, all glass and chrome and daddy's money. The apartment feels different now, quieter, like it's been holding its breath for months and can finally exhale. I pour myself a bourbon. The good stuff Tessa always said was a waste of money, and sit down at my computer. Time for some research. Tessa thinks she knows me, thinks I'm just another middle management drone who'll roll over and accept whatever scraps she throws my way. What she doesn't know is that project management isn't just about scheduling meetings and tracking deadlines. It's about information, leverage, understanding systems well enough to make them work for you or against someone else. I start with the obvious stuff. Social media accounts. Tessa's been careless with her passwords, using variations of the same phrase for everything. Her email, her Instagram, her streaming services. 3 years of marriage teaches you things about a person, intimate details they never think you'll use against them. Her Instagram tells the story she wants the world to see. Successful social media consultant, devoted wife, life of the party. But her private messages tell a different story entirely. Months of conversations with Dylan, planning meetups, sharing intimate jokes, screenshots of our arguments that she's been sharing with her friends, painting me as the boring husband holding back her dreams. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. The streaming accounts are even better. Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime, all logged in, all tracking what she's been watching and when. Amazing how those romantic comedies she claimed to watch alone were actually viewed during the same time periods Dylan was posting stories from his apartment. I download everything, screenshots, message threads, viewing histories. Not to use right now. That would be too obvious, too immediate. But for later, when the time is right. My phone rings. Tessa's name flashes on the screen. Ethan, can we talk? I think there might have been a misunderstanding. No misunderstanding, I say. Your committee was very clear. You're not my type anymore either. Don't be like this. You're being childish. I'm being efficient. You want it out? You're out. I'll have the paperwork started tomorrow. Wait, I didn't mean immediately. I thought we could work out the details, maybe do a trial separation. Details? Like what? Whether Dylan gets to keep using our Netflix password? The silence on the other end stretches long enough that I almost think she hung up. When she finally speaks, her voice is smaller, less certain. How did you? 3 years, Tessa. You think I don't notice patterns? You think I don't pay attention when my wife suddenly develops a love for documentaries about cryptocurrency and artisanal whiskey? Dylan's 2 favorite topics of conversation? You're being paranoid. Am I? Then explain why your viewing history shows you watching The Entrepreneur's Guide to Success at 2 a.m. last Tuesday, the same night Dylan posted an Instagram story about his late-night research session. Another silence. Longer this time. I want half of everything, she says finally, her voice hardening back into the tone she used at the cafe. Of course you do. Your committee probably has that all worked out too. Stop calling them that. Why? It's accurate. You outsourced your marriage to a focus group. Now you get to live with the results. I hang up before she can respond. The bourbon burns warm in my chest, mixing with something else. Anticipation, maybe. Or justice. Hard to tell the difference sometimes. My laptop chimes with a new email. Tessa's Instagram account, sending me a notification that she's changed her password. Too little, too late. I've already got what I need. But this gives me an idea. I open her streaming accounts and start making changes. Remove items from her watch list. Change her viewing preferences. Set up a scheduled post for her Instagram account. Nothing dramatic, just a simple message that'll go live in exactly 1 week. Sometimes the people closest to you are the ones who know you least. Time to stop pretending and start living honestly. She'll probably change her passwords for everything by tomorrow, but the scheduled post will go through unless she specifically looks for it, and Tessa's never been one for details. She prefers the big picture, the grand gesture, the small stuff, the stuff that actually matters, she leaves to other people. People like me. My phone buzzes again. This time it's a text from Dylan. Dude, we should talk. Man to man. I stare at the message for a long moment, then type back. Sure, I'll be in touch. But not yet. Not when he's expecting it. The thing about project management is that timing is everything. You don't rush into the critical phase without proper preparation. You don't execute the plan until all the pieces are in position. I finish my bourbon and start making a list. Names, relationships, leverage points. Tessa's not the only one who can play politics. She's just the only one who's been playing them so far. That changes now. The apartment feels different as I move through it, taking inventory. 3 years of shared space, shared belongings, shared lies. Tomorrow I'll start the legal process, but tonight I'm doing something more important. Tonight I'm planning. My phone rings one more time, Lena's name on the screen. So, she says when I answer. Scale of 1 to 10, how stupid was she? 15, I say, maybe 20. Good. When do we start? I smile for the first time all day. Lena's always been the smart one in the family. She saw through Tessa's act from day one, but she kept her opinions to herself out of respect for my choices. Now that those choices have been made for me, all bets are off. Soon, I tell her. But we're going to do this right. Clean, legal, and completely devastating. My favorite kind of project, she says. What do you need? Information. Background checks on Dylan and his business ventures. Financial records if you can get them. And I need to know everything about Tessa's consulting contracts, who she's working with, what she's promised them, where the money's coming from. Consider it done. Anything else? I look around the apartment one more time, seeing it with new eyes, not as the home I'm losing, but as the base of operations I'm gaining. Yeah, I say. I need you to help me disappear some money, legal transfers all above board, but I want our assets protected before Tessa realizes what's happening. Already on it. I moved the emergency fund this afternoon. How did you? I've been waiting for this call for 2 years, Ethan. I love you, but your wife is a snake. I'm just glad you finally see it. After I hang up, I sit in the quiet apartment and think about the look on Tessa's face when I walked away from her little tribunal. The confusion, the panic, the dawning realization that her script had gone off the rails. She wanted a victim. Instead, she got an opponent. Tomorrow, the real work begins. Tonight, I'm going to finish this bourbon and plan the most important project of my life. The complete and total dismantling of Tessa Vale's carefully constructed world. The next morning brings clarity and a mild headache. The bourbon was probably a mistake, but the planning wasn't. I've got 17 different angles of attack mapped out, each one legal, ethical, and completely ruthless. My phone has 6 missed calls from Tessa and 3 from Dylan. I ignore them all. The office provides a welcome distraction. Henderson and Associates occupies 3 floors of a downtown high-rise, and my project management team handles everything from software implementations to corporate restructuring. It's methodical work that requires attention to detail and an ability to see 3 moves ahead. Perfect training for what I'm about to do. "You look different," says Jennifer Walsh, my assistant and the closest thing I have to a work spouse. "Good different, like you finally got some sleep." "Something like that," I say, settling into my cubicle. "Any urgent fires this morning?" "The Morrison account needs a status update by noon, and Ms. Devlin wants to see you about the quarterly reviews." Patricia Devlin runs HR with the efficiency of a Swiss watch and the warmth of a brick wall. She's fair but intimidating, which makes her perfect for her job. It also makes her someone I need on my side for what's coming. I spend the morning working on legitimate projects, but part of my mind is running calculations. Tessa's going to strike back. That much is certain. She's probably already crafting her narrative, painting me as the controlling husband who couldn't handle her success. Her friends will back her up, social media will amplify the message, and by the end of the week, I'll be the villain in a story I didn't even know I was part of, unless I get there first. At lunch, I drive to a coffee shop 3 blocks away and make some calls. The first is to Robert Chen, a private investigator I've used for background checks on potential business partners. The second is to my lawyer, Margaret Stone, who specializes in divorce cases and has a reputation for being thorough. "Ethan," Margaret says when I explain the situation, "I'm sorry to hear about the marriage, but I have to ask. Are you sure you want to go this route? Sometimes it's better to take the high road." "The high road is what got me ambushed in a café yesterday," I tell her. "I want everything documented. Every asset, every debt, every business relationship. If Tessa wants to play games, she's going to find out I'm better at them than she is." "Understood. I'll start the paperwork today. But Ethan, be careful. Divorce brings out the worst in people, and if she feels cornered, she might do something desperate." After I hang up, I sit in my car for a moment, watching people walk by on the sidewalk. Normal people with normal problems. Part of me envies them, but only part. My phone buzzes with a text from an unknown number. "This is Mallory. We need to talk. Coffee at Luna, 4 p.m. Interesting. Mallory Chen, no relation to Robert, is Tessa's closest friend and biggest enabler. She's also the one who looked most uncomfortable during yesterday's ambush. If she wants to meet alone, it means the committee isn't as united as they appeared. I text back, "See you there." The afternoon crawls by. I finish the Morrison status report, attend 2 meetings that could have been emails, and spend an hour reviewing personnel files for the quarterly evaluations, normal work stuff that feels surreal given everything else that's happening. At 3:45, I walk back into Café Luna. The irony isn't lost on me. 24 hours ago, this place was the site of my humiliation. Today, it might be where I start getting some answers. Mallory's already there, sitting at a corner table with an untouched cappuccino in front of her. She looks nervous, which is unusual. Mallory Chen is normally the most composed person in any room, the one who smooths over conflicts and manages group dynamics with surgical precision. "Thanks for coming," she says as I sit down. "Thanks for the mysterious text. Very cloak and dagger." She doesn't smile at the joke. "Ethan, I need to apologize for yesterday. The whole thing it wasn't supposed to happen like that." "How was it supposed to happen?" "Tessa said she was going to talk to you privately. She asked us to come for moral support, but then she turned it into a performance. It was cruel." I study her face, looking for tells. Mallory's good at managing information, but she's not a natural liar. The guilt seems genuine. "So why are you here?" I ask. "Because I think you deserve to know the truth. About Dylan, about what's been going on, about why Tessa really wanted out of the marriage." "I'm listening." Mallory takes a shaky breath. "It started about 6 months ago. Tessa met Dylan at a networking event, some entrepreneur mixer downtown. He was charming, successful, everything she thought she wanted, but it wasn't just about attraction. What else? Dylan told her he could help with her business. He claimed to have connections in the influencer marketing space, promised he could get her bigger clients, better contracts. Tessa's been struggling lately, losing clients, missing deadlines. She was desperate. This is news to me. Tessa always portrayed her consulting business as thriving, showing off new contracts and celebrating social media wins. If she was actually struggling, she hid it well. Go on, I say. Dylan's been stringing her along for months, making promises, setting up meetings that go nowhere, introducing her to people who turn out to be nobody important. But he's also been paying for things. Dinners, trips, that new laptop she bought last month. Tessa thinks it's because he believes in her business, but you don't. I think Dylan Reed is a player who enjoys the chase more than the catch, and I think Tessa's about to find out what happens when the money runs out. Mallory reaches into her purse and pulls out her phone. I shouldn't be showing you this, but... She scrolls through a series of screenshots, text messages between her and Tessa, dating back several weeks. The messages paint a picture of increasing desperation. Tessa complaining about late payments from clients, asking to borrow money, obsessing over Dylan's promises of business connections that never materialize. She's been lying to all of us, Mallory says, about the business, about Dylan, about why she wanted to leave you. Yesterday wasn't about finding happiness, it was about trading one safety net for another. I lean back in my chair, processing this information. It changes everything and nothing. Tessa's still gone, Dylan's still the other man, and I'm still the husband who got discarded by committee vote. But now I understand the real game being played. Why are you telling me this? I ask. Because I've known you for 3 years, and you're a good man who deserves better. And because I think Tessa's making a huge mistake that's going to hurt everyone around her. Including you. Especially me. She's been asking to borrow money, using our friendship as leverage. Yesterday was supposed to be a clean break that would let her move on without complications. Instead, she created a war she's not prepared to fight. Mallory stands up, leaving her cappuccino untouched. I can't be in the middle of this, Ethan, but I thought you should know what you're really dealing with. After she leaves, I sit alone in the cafe, turning over this new information. Tessa's not just unfaithful, she's financially desperate. Dylan's not just her lover, he's her meal ticket. And the friends who participated in yesterday's ambush might not be as loyal as they appeared. My phone rings. Lena. I've got preliminary information on your boy Dylan, she says without preamble. Want the good news or the bad news? Start with the good news. The good news is that he's exactly as shady as you suspected. The bad news is that he's shady in ways that make him dangerous to mess with. Explain. Dylan Reed isn't really an entrepreneur. He's a trust fund baby whose family money comes from some questionable real estate deals in the 90s. The business ventures he talks about are mostly money laundering schemes disguised as tech startups. He's never been arrested, but he's been investigated twice by the IRS. This keeps getting better. What about current finances? That's where it gets interesting. His trust fund got frozen 6 months ago pending a federal investigation into his father's estate. Dylan's been living off credit cards and loans, trying to maintain his lifestyle while the lawyers sort things out. 6 months ago, right around the time he met Tessa. So he's broke, I say. Worse than broke. He's leveraged up to his eyeballs and desperate to maintain appearances. Which means your wife isn't trading up. She's jumping from one sinking ship to another. I thank Lena and hang up, pieces clicking into place. Dylan targeted Tessa because he needed someone with legitimate income to help support his lifestyle. Tessa fell for it because she was struggling with her business and saw him as her ticket to success. They're both using each other, which means they're both vulnerable. My phone buzzes with another text, this one from Dylan. We really need to talk. This doesn't have to be ugly. I stare at the message for a long moment, then type back, You're right. It doesn't have to be ugly. It can be beautiful. Time to start phase 2. I drive to Dylan's apartment building in the Pearl District, a glass tower that screams new money and insecurity. The doorman recognizes me. I've been here before, back when Tessa and I were still pretending everything was fine, and Dylan was just a friend from her networking group. Good evening, Mr. Vale, he says. Here to see Mr. Reed? Actually, I'm here to leave something for him. I hand over a manila envelope with Dylan's name on it. Inside are photocopies of the screenshots Mallory showed me, along with a printed summary of Dylan's financial situation and a simple note. We should definitely talk. But first, you should probably talk to Tessa about honesty in relationships. E. Please make sure he gets this tonight, I tell the doorman, slipping him a 20. The drive home gives me time to think about timing. Dylan will get the envelope within the hour, realize I know more than he expected, and panic. He'll probably call Tessa, which will lead to an argument about who's been lying to whom. By tomorrow morning, the united front they presented yesterday will start showing cracks. That's when I'll make my next move. Back at the apartment, I pour another bourbon and review my notes. 17 different angles of attack, but now I can narrow it down to the most effective ones. Financial pressure, social embarrassment, and good old-fashioned information warfare. Tessa thinks she knows me. Thinks I'm the boring, predictable husband who'll roll over and accept whatever scraps she throws my way. She's about to learn how wrong she is. My phone rings at 11:47 p.m. Tessa's name on the screen. "What did you do?" she says without preamble. Her voice is tight with anger and something else, fear. I had a conversation with an old friend. Very enlightening. Mallory had no right to. Mallory was trying to be a good friend to both of us. Unlike some people, she still believes in honesty. You don't understand the situation. I understand it perfectly. You're broke. Dylan's broke. And you thought you could trade me in for someone with better prospects. Except you didn't do your homework. Silence on the other end. When she speaks again, her voice is smaller. It's not what you think. It's exactly what I think. You got played, Tessa, by a trust fund baby whose money dried up 6 months ago. He's been using you as much as you've been using me. That's not. He loves me. He loves your credit score, which, by the way, is about to take a hit when I remove you from our joint accounts tomorrow. You can't do that. Actually, I can. Margaret Stone explained the process to me this afternoon. Very educational. Another silence, longer this time. What do you want? She asks finally. I want you to understand that actions have consequences. You want to leave? Fine. But you don't get to humiliate me in public and then expect me to make it easy for you. I never meant for it to happen like that. But it did happen like that. And now we all get to live with the results. I hang up before she can respond, but the phone rings again immediately. This time it's Dylan. We need to meet, he says. His voice is tight, controlled, but I can hear the stress underneath. I agree. Tomorrow night, Murphy's Tavern on 5th Street, 8 o'clock. Why there? Because it's public, it's neutral, and they have excellent whiskey. You'll need it after the conversation we're going to have. I hang up and finish my bourbon, already planning tomorrow's moves. Dylan wants to meet because he's realized the situation is more complicated than he thought. Tessa's calling because she's starting to understand that I'm not the pushover she married. They're both about to learn that the quiet, predictable project manager has been paying attention all along, and that when you corner someone who understands systems and leverage, they don't just roll over, they fight back. Murphy's Tavern is exactly the kind of place Dylan Reed would never choose for himself. Dim lighting, worn leather booths, and a clientele that values substance over style. It's also the kind of place where conversations can happen without interruption, which is exactly what I need tonight. I arrive 15 minutes early and claim a corner booth with clear sightlines to both entrances. Old habits from my military days, back before I became the boring project manager Tessa fell out of love with. Some skills you never lose. Dylan shows up at exactly 8 o'clock, which surprises me. Punctuality isn't usually a trait of the entitled rich, but maybe desperation has taught him some discipline. He's dressed down from his usual peacock display, jeans, button-down shirt, leather jacket that probably still costs more than most people's rent. He slides into the booth across from me, and I get my first close look at him without Tessa's friends as an audience. The stress is showing. Dark circles under his eyes, tension around his mouth, the kind of fatigue that comes from maintaining a lie that's getting too heavy to carry. Thanks for meeting me, he says. Thanks for being honest about why you wanted to. The waitress comes over, and Dylan orders a craft beer that costs $8. I stick with bourbon, the cheap stuff this time. No point in wasting the good liquor on this conversation. So, Dylan says when we're alone again. You know, I know some things. I suspect others. Why don't you fill in the blanks? He takes a long pull from his beer, buying time. It's complicated. Most lies are. Try me. I never meant for it to go this far. She's amazing, you know? Smart, beautiful, ambitious. She deserves better than... He catches himself before finishing the sentence. Better than her husband. You can say it. That's what you all decided, remember? Dylan has the grace to look uncomfortable. That wasn't my idea. The whole café thing, the group confrontation. Tessa wanted witnesses. She said it would make things cleaner. Cleaner for whom? For everyone. No messy back and forth, no drawn-out arguments. Just a clear break that everyone could accept. I lean back in the booth, studying his face. Except you're not here because things are clean, are you? You're here because you're in trouble. We're all in trouble now. You made sure of that. I didn't make anything. I just stopped pretending not to notice what was happening in my own marriage. Dylan finishes half his beer in one swallow. What do you want? I want to understand the game I'm playing. See, I thought this was about my wife falling for another man. Simple adultery happens every day, but it's not that simple, is it? No. It's about money. Your family's money that isn't available anymore, Tessa's business that's failing, and two people who thought they could solve their problems by using each other. Dylan doesn't deny it, which is confirmation enough. Here's what I think happened, I continue. You met Tessa at a networking event 6 months ago, right around the time your trust fund got frozen. You saw a successful businesswoman married to a stable guy with a steady income. Perfect target. It wasn't like that. Wasn't it? You promised her business connections you couldn't deliver, paid for things you couldn't afford, and convinced her that her boring husband was holding her back from the success you could provide. Except you can't provide it, can you? Because you're as broke as she is. Dylan sets down his beer with enough force to slosh foam over the rim. You don't know what you're talking about. I know that you're leveraged beyond your means, living off credit cards and loans while you wait for lawyers to sort out your father's estate. I know that Tessa's been losing clients for months and borrowing money from friends to keep her business afloat. I know that yesterday's little performance was supposed to give her a clean exit from one financial arrangement into another. You're wrong. Am I? Then explain why Mallory Chen felt guilty enough to tell me the truth about Tessa's financial situation. Explain why you're sitting here instead of celebrating your victory with your new girlfriend. Dylan stares into his beer for a long moment. When he looks up, some of the fight has gone out of his eyes. Tessa doesn't know about my situation, he says quietly. What situation, specifically? The trust fund, the investigations, any of it. She thinks I'm successful, that I can help her business grow. If she finds out the truth, she'll realize she made a mistake, that she traded a stable marriage for a house of cards. It's not a house of cards. The legal issues will get resolved, the money will be available again. It's just a matter of time. How much time? 6 months, maybe 12. And in the meantime? Dylan doesn't answer, but he doesn't need to. In the meantime, he needs Tessa's income to maintain his lifestyle, and Tessa needs his promises to maintain her hope. Here's the thing, Dylan, I say, leaning forward. I don't actually care about your financial problems. What I care about is the fact that you helped my wife humiliate me in public because it served your purposes. I told you, that wasn't my idea. But you went along with it. You sat there and watched her turn our marriage into a committee decision, and you said nothing. What was I supposed to do? You were supposed to act like a man instead of a coward. The words hit him like a physical blow. His face flushes, and for a moment I think he might actually take a swing at me. But Dylan Reed isn't the type to start fights he might lose, especially in public. So what now? He asks. You want me to stay away from Tessa, break up with her? What? I want you to tell her the truth. About your finances, about your family's legal problems, about the fact that you can't deliver on any of the promises you made. I can't do that. Why not? Because she'll leave me. And that's a problem because? Dylan stares at me like I've asked him to explain quantum physics. The idea that Tessa might leave him, that he might lose something he wants, clearly hasn't occurred to him as a natural consequence of lying to her. Look, he says finally, we both want the same thing here. We want Tessa to be happy. No, we don't. You want Tessa to support you until your money problems get sorted out. I want Tessa to understand that actions have consequences. What's the difference? The difference is that I actually care about her long-term well-being. You just care about what she can do for you. I finish my bourbon and signal the waitress for the check. Here's how this is going to work, Dylan. You have 48 hours to tell Tessa the truth about your situation. If you don't, I will. You can't prove any of this. I can prove all of it. Financial records, court documents, witness statements. My sister's very thorough. Dylan's face goes pale. Your sister? Lena Vale. She's a forensic accountant who specializes in fraud investigation. Turns out she's been waiting for an excuse to dig into your background. This is blackmail. This is consequences. You wanted to play games with people's lives, now you get to live with the results. I stand up and throw a 20 on the table. 48 hours, Dylan. Don't make me come looking for you. The night air feels good after the stale atmosphere of the bar. I sit in my car for a moment, reviewing the conversation. Dylan's more desperate than I thought, which makes him dangerous, but also predictable. He'll spend the next 2 days trying to figure out how to tell Tessa the truth without losing her, and he'll fail because there's no good way to admit you've been lying about everything. My phone buzzes with a text from Lena. How'd it go? Better than expected? He's scared. Good. Scared people make mistakes. Speaking of mistakes, I need you to do something for me. Name it. I need you to set up a meeting with Tessa's biggest client, the Peterson Group. They hired her to handle their social media rebranding. Why? Because I think they deserve to know that their consultant is about to have some personal issues that might affect her work. Ethan, that's business. If Tessa wants to make this about money instead of marriage, then we play by business rules. A long pause. You're sure about this? I'm sure that she humiliated me in public and needs to understand that actions have consequences. Okay, I'll set it up. After I hang up, I drive home through downtown Portland, past the cafe where this all started, past Dylan's glass tower, past the office where I spend my days managing other people's projects. The city looks different now, not like home but like a game board where I'm finally learning the rules. My apartment feels different too, emptier but also cleaner. Tessa took some of her things yesterday, clothes, laptop, personal items, but she left the furniture, the art, the shared accumulation of 3 years together. I should probably feel sad about that. Instead, I feel relieved. The bourbon tastes better tonight. The silence feels comfortable instead of oppressive. For the first time in months, maybe years, I'm not walking on eggshells around someone else's mood. My phone rings at 11:23 p.m. Tessa. Dylan told me about your conversation, she says. Her voice is tight with anger. Good. Saves me from having to repeat myself. You can't threaten him. I didn't threaten him. I offered him a choice. The same thing. Not even close. A threat is do this or I'll hurt you. A choice is do this or accept the consequences of not doing it. What's the difference? The difference is that consequences are just reality catching up with decisions. Dylan made choices. You made choices. Now you both get to live with what happens next. I never wanted it to be like this. Then you shouldn't have made it a public spectacle. You shouldn't have turned our marriage into a committee decision. You shouldn't have humiliated me in front of your friends. I was scared. Of what? Of hurting you, of making it messy. I thought if I had support, if there were witnesses, it would be cleaner. Cleaner for you, maybe, not for me. Silence on the other end. When she speaks again, her voice is smaller. What do you want, Ethan? What would it take to make this stop? I want you to understand that marriage isn't a democracy. You don't get to vote someone out of your life without consequences. You want a divorce? Fine. But you do it with respect, in private, like adults. I can't undo what happened. No, you can't. But you can stop making it worse. How? By telling your friends that the public humiliation was wrong, by admitting that you handled this badly, by taking responsibility for your choices instead of blaming everyone else. And if I do that, then maybe we can end this like civilized people instead of enemies. Another long silence. I need to think about it. You have 48 hours, same as Dylan. What happens in 48 hours? You find out whether I'm as boring and predictable as you thought. I hang up and pour one more bourbon, thinking about timing and consequences. 48 hours should be enough time for Dylan to panic and make mistakes. It should also be enough time for Tessa to realize that her safety net isn't as secure as she thought. After that, we'll see how much they really want to play games with other people's lives. The apartment is quiet except for the distant hum of traffic and the occasional siren, normal city sounds that used to feel lonely but now feel like possibilities. Tomorrow I'll start phase 3 of the plan. Tonight, I'm going to enjoy the silence and think about how much my life is about to change. For the better, I hope. But either way, it's going to change. The 48 hours pass like a slow-motion car crash. I go to work, attend meetings, review project timelines, and pretend everything is normal while my phone stays conspicuously quiet. No calls from Tessa, no texts from Dylan, no panicked messages from Mallory or the rest of the committee. The silence is more telling than any conversation could be. On Thursday evening, I drive to the Pearl District and park across from Dylan's building. I don't have to wait long. At 6:47 p.m., he emerges from the lobby wearing gym clothes and carrying a duffel bag. His routine is predictable. Expensive fitness club 3 blocks away, workout from 7 to 8:30, then drinks at the rooftop bar with whatever social media influencer he's trying to impress this week. Except tonight, Tessa's waiting for him outside the gym. I watch from my car as they have what's clearly an intense conversation on the sidewalk. Even from a distance, I can see the tension in their body language, Dylan's defensive posture, Tessa's animated gestures, the way they keep looking around to see if anyone's watching. The conversation lasts exactly 11 minutes. Then Tessa storms off toward her car, and Dylan stands alone on the sidewalk looking like someone just told him his trust fund isn't coming back. My phone buzzes. Text from Tessa. We need to talk. Tonight. I text back. Murphy's Tavern, 9 o'clock. Not there. Somewhere private. Privacy is what got us into this mess. Public places only. Fine. Luna Cafe, 9:30. The irony is perfect. Back to the scene of the crime. I arrive early again, claiming the same corner table where Mallory and I had our conversation. The evening crowd is different from the afternoon committee meeting demographic. Younger, louder, more focused on their phones than their companions. Perfect cover for a difficult conversation. Tessa shows up at exactly 9:30, which tells me she's been sitting in her car working up the courage to come inside. She looks exhausted, dark circles under her eyes, hair pulled back in a messy ponytail, wearing jeans and a sweater instead of her usual carefully curated outfit. You look terrible, I say as she sits down. Thanks, you look smug. I look satisfied. There's a difference. She orders coffee she probably doesn't need and sits back in her chair like she's trying to put as much distance between us as possible. Dylan told me about his situation, she says without preamble. All of it? Enough of it. The trust fund, the legal problems, the fact that he's been living off credit cards for months. How'd that conversation go? How do you think it went? I found out that the man I left my husband for has been lying to me about everything. Not everything. I'm sure he really does drive a vintage convertible. That he can't afford. Details. Tessa stares into her coffee cup like it might contain answers to questions she doesn't want to ask. You knew, didn't you, from the beginning? I suspected. You don't spend 3 years married to someone without learning to read the signs when they're lying. Then why didn't you say anything? Because I thought you'd figure it out on your own. I thought you were smarter than this. The words hit harder than I intended. Tessa flinches like I slapped her. I was desperate, she says quietly. The business is failing, Ethan. Has been for months. I've lost 3 major clients since January, and the ones I still have are behind on payments. Dylan seemed like a way out. A way out of what? Our marriage? Your business problems? Reality? All of it. He promised he could help, that he had connections, that he could turn things around. And you believed him because you wanted to believe him. I believed him because I needed to believe him, because the alternative was admitting that I'm failing at everything. This is the first honest thing she's said to me in months, maybe years. The admission hangs between us like a bridge neither of us wants to cross. So what now? I ask. I don't know. Dylan's talking about taking a loan against his father's estate, trying to keep up appearances until the legal issues get resolved. He wants me to move in with him, help with expenses. And you're considering it? I don't have a lot of options. You have exactly the same options you had a week ago. The only difference is now you know what they actually cost. Tessa looks up from her coffee, and for the first time since she walked in, makes eye contact. What does that mean? It means you can keep chasing fantasies with Dylan and hope his family money materializes before you both go broke. Or you can face reality and start dealing with your actual problems instead of running away from them. Easy for you to say. You have a steady job, a stable income, a predictable life. I have those things because I chose them, because I decided that boring and reliable was better than exciting and unstable. And look how that worked out. It worked out fine until you decided it wasn't enough. We sit in silence for a moment, the weight of 3 years and all the things we never said to each other settling between us like dust. I can't come back, Tessa says finally. Even if I wanted to, I can't undo what happened. The things I said, the way I handled it. No, you can't undo it, but you can stop making it worse. How? By admitting you made a mistake, by apologizing for the public humiliation, by taking responsibility for your choices instead of blaming everyone else. And then what? We pretend none of this happened? Then we end this like adults instead of enemies. We split our assets fairly, we both move on with our lives, and we don't spend the next year trying to destroy each other. Tessa considers this, turning her coffee cup in slow circles on the table. What about Dylan? What about him? You're going to keep going after him, aren't you, even if I do what you want? Dylan made his own choices. He gets to live with his own consequences. That's not an answer. It's the only answer you're going to get. My phone buzzes with a text. Unknown number. This is Isla, Dylan's ex. We should meet. I have information you'll want to hear. I show the message to Tessa. Her face goes pale. What does Isla want? She asks. I guess we'll find out. Ethan, please. Whatever she tells you, whatever you're planning, Dylan's not a bad person. He's just scared and desperate and making stupid choices. So were you. Didn't stop you from humiliating me in public. That's different. How? Because you can handle it. You're strong enough to deal with this kind of thing. Dylan isn't. I leaned back in my chair, studying her face. Let me get this straight. You're asking me to go easy on the man you left me for because he's not tough enough to handle the consequences of his actions? I'm asking you to be the bigger person. I was the bigger person. For 3 years, I was the bigger person while you complained about our boring life and flirted with every ambitious guy you met at networking events. I was the bigger person when you started staying out late and making excuses. I was the bigger person when you brought your friends to watch you dump me like it was dinner theater. Ethan, I'm done being the bigger person, Tessa. Now I'm just being the smarter person. I stand up and pull out my wallet. You have until Sunday to make your choice. Apologize publicly, take responsibility for what you did, and we end this cleanly. Or don't, and find out what happens when someone who understands systems and leverage decides to stop playing nice. What's happening Sunday? Sunday is when I meet with your biggest client and explain why their social media consultant might not be available for the next few months. Tessa's face goes white. You wouldn't. Try me. I leave her sitting at the table, staring into her coffee cup like it might contain a way out of the mess she's created. But there is no way out, only through. And the path through requires admitting mistakes, accepting consequences, and dealing with reality instead of running from it. Outside, the night air feels clean and cold. I sit in my car for a moment, thinking about Isla's text. Dylan's ex-girlfriend wanting to share information can only mean one thing. There are more secrets to uncover, more lies to expose. I text her back. Tomorrow night, 7 p.m., Murphy's Tavern. She responds immediately. See you there. Bring a notepad. You're going to want to write this down. The drive home takes me past Dylan's building again. The lights are on in his apartment, and I can see 2 figures moving around inside. Tessa and Dylan, probably having another intense conversation about truth and consequences and what happens when your lies catch up with you. Good. Let them panic. Let them realize that actions have consequences and that the boring, predictable husband they discarded isn't as harmless as they thought. My apartment feels different again. Not empty, but expectant, like it's waiting to see what happens next. I pour a bourbon and sit by the window, looking out at the city lights and thinking about tomorrow's conversation with Isla. Whatever she has to tell me, it's going to change the game again. The question is whether it'll change it enough to end this war or just escalate it to the next level. Either way, I'm ready. Friday evening at Murphy's Tavern, and Isla Thompson is already waiting when I arrive. She's chosen a booth in the back corner, away from the main crowd, with a manila folder on the table in front of her. Isla's different from Tessa's other friends, quieter, more observant, with the kind of intelligence that people often mistake for shyness. She dated Dylan for 2 years before Tessa came along, which means she knows things about him that nobody else does. Thanks for meeting me, she says as I slide into the booth. Thanks for the cryptic message. Very mysterious. Dylan doesn't know I'm here, neither does Tessa. I'd like to keep it that way. Depends on what you're about to tell me. Isla opens the folder and slides a stack of documents across the table. Financial records, text messages, email printouts, everything you need to understand what Dylan Reed really is. I flip through the pages, scanning bank statements, credit card bills, and loan applications. The numbers paint a clear picture of someone living far beyond his means, juggling debt payments and using cash advances to cover basic expenses. Where did you get this? Dylan's not very good with computer security. He uses the same password for everything, and he never logs out of shared devices. I've been collecting information for months. Why? Because I knew he was going to crash eventually, and I wanted to protect myself when it happened. I just didn't expect him to take your wife down with him. What's your relationship with Tessa? Complicated. We were friends before Dylan, stayed friends during Dylan, and now, she shrugs. Now I'm watching her make the same mistakes I made, except worse. I study the documents more carefully. The timeline is damning. Dylan's financial problems started almost a year ago, long before his trust fund got frozen. He's been living off credit and loans since last summer, maintaining his lifestyle through increasingly desperate measures. This shows he was broke before he met Tessa, I say. He was broke before he met me. Dylan Reed has never had a legitimate income in his life. The trust fund was supposed to kick in when he turned 30, but his father's legal problems put everything on hold. So he's been targeting women with stable incomes. Women with stable incomes and low self-esteem. He's very good at finding successful people who feel like failures. The description hits uncomfortably close to home. Is that what Tessa is? Tessa's a smart woman who's been struggling with her business and questioning her choices. Dylan saw that vulnerability and exploited it. And you're telling me this because? Because Dylan Reed is a parasite who destroys everything he touches, and I'm tired of watching good people get hurt. Isla pulls out her phone and shows me a series of text messages. These are from last week, after your café confrontation. Dylan panicking about money, asking me to loan him cash, threatening to tell people lies about our relationship if I don't help him. The messages are increasingly desperate, showing a man who's running out of options and starting to make threats. The last one, sent yesterday, is particularly ugly. You owe me, Isla. Don't make me remind everyone about the things you did when we were together. What things? I ask. Nothing illegal or immoral. Just private moments that would be embarrassing if they became public. Dylan likes to collect leverage on people. Does he have leverage on Tessa? Not yet, but he's working on it. He's been recording their conversations, taking pictures, gathering material he can use if she tries to leave him. This changes everything. Dylan isn't just a broke trust fund baby. He's actively predatory, using blackmail and manipulation to control the women in his life. Why are you showing me this? Because you're the only person in this situation with the resources and motivation to stop him. Tessa won't listen to me. She thinks I'm jealous. Her friends won't listen because they're caught up in the drama. But you, I have nothing to lose. You have nothing to lose and everything to gain. Dylan's been destroying lives for years. It's time someone returned the favor. I close the folder and lean back in the booth. What do you want in return? I want Dylan Reed to face consequences for his actions. I want him to stop hurting people, and I want to make sure that when this is over, he can't come after me for helping you. That last part might be tricky. Not if he's too busy dealing with his own problems to worry about revenge. We sit in silence for a moment, the weight of the information settling between us. Dylan isn't just Tessa's mistake. He's a pattern, a predator who's been using the same tactics on multiple women. There's something else, Isla says. Dylan's been telling people that you're stalking him, harassing him, threatening violence. He's building a case to get a restraining order. Based on what? Based on lies, but lies that might be believable if he presents them right. He's very good at playing the victim. This is a problem. If Dylan gets a restraining order, it limits my options and gives him legal protection while he continues manipulating Tessa. When's he planning to file? Monday morning. He's already talked to a lawyer. Then we need to move this weekend. We? You want Dylan to face consequences. I want to end this war before it gets out of hand. That makes us temporary allies. Isla nods slowly. What do you need from me? I need you to get Tessa alone tomorrow. Convince her to meet you for coffee, shopping, whatever. Keep her busy for a few hours. What are you going to do? I'm going to have a conversation with Dylan, a final conversation that settles this once and for all. Ethan, be careful. Dylan's more dangerous than he appears. So am I. After Isla leaves, I sit alone in the booth, reviewing the documents and planning my next move. Dylan's been playing a longer game than I realized, using manipulation and blackmail to control multiple women over several years. He's not just Tessa's mistake. He's a genuine threat who needs to be stopped. My phone buzzes with a text from Lena. Meeting with Peterson Group is set for Monday at 10 a.m. They're very interested in discussing their consultant's reliability. I text back, might not be necessary. Situation is escalating. How escalating? The kind that ends this weekend, one way or another. Need backup? Not yet, but stay available. Saturday morning, I wake up with a plan. It's risky, potentially messy, but it addresses the core problem. Dylan Reed's pattern of manipulation and abuse. If I can expose that pattern publicly, with evidence, it protects not just Tessa, but future victims. I spend the morning reviewing Isla's documents, cross-referencing financial records with social media posts, building a timeline of Dylan's deceptions. The picture that emerges is damning. A man who's been living off borrowed money and borrowed time for over a year, targeting vulnerable women and using emotional manipulation to maintain his lifestyle. At noon, I get a text from Isla. T is with me, shopping downtown. You have at least 3 hours. Time to end this. Dylan's building looks different in daylight. Less impressive, more desperate. The doorman recognizes me but seems surprised to see me. Mr. Vale, are you here to see Mr. Reed? Is he in? Yes, sir. Shall I call up? Don't bother. I'll surprise him. The elevator ride to the 15th floor gives me time to review my approach. This conversation needs to be definitive, No ambiguity, no room for misinterpretation, no possibility of Dylan spinning it into something it's not. I knock on Dylan's door at 1:47 p.m. He opens it wearing sweatpants and a t-shirt, looking like he's been drinking since breakfast. "Ethan, what are you doing here?" "We need to finish our conversation from the other night." "I don't think that's a good idea." "I don't think you have a choice." Dylan tries to close the door, but I put my hand against it, applying just enough pressure to keep it open. "5 minutes, Dylan, then I'll leave and you'll never see me again." "Fine. 5 minutes." His apartment is exactly what I expected. Expensive furniture, impressive electronics, and the kind of carefully curated masculine decor that screams insecurity. There are also signs of financial stress, unopened bills on the counter, empty liquor bottles in the recycling, the general atmosphere of someone who's given up on maintaining appearances. "Nice place," I say. "How much longer can you afford it?" "That's none of your business." "Actually, it is my business, because you made it my business when you helped my wife humiliate me in public." Dylan pours himself a whiskey from a bottle that probably costs more than most people make in a week. His hands are shaking slightly. "Look, Ethan, I'm sorry about how that went down. Tessa said she wanted support, but I didn't know she was going to make it into a performance." "But you went along with it." "What was I supposed to do? You were supposed to act like a man instead of a coward." "Easy for you to say. You don't understand the pressure I'm under." "I understand it perfectly. You're broke, desperate, and using my wife to maintain a lifestyle you can't afford." Dylan takes a large swallow of whiskey. "It's not that simple." "It's exactly that simple. You targeted Tessa because she was vulnerable, made promises you couldn't keep, and convinced her to leave her marriage for a fantasy. I love her. You love what she can do for you. There's a difference." I pull out Isla's folder and set it on his coffee table. Financial records, text messages, evidence of a pattern going back years. You're not just a liar, Dylan. You're a predator. His face goes pale as he recognizes the documents. "Where did you get this?" "Does it matter? What matters is what I'm going to do with it." "What do you want?" "I want you to leave town, today. Pack your things, get in your car, and drive somewhere far away from here." "I can't do that." "Why not?" "Because my life is here. My business, my friends, Tessa." "Your business is a lie. Your friends are people you owe money to, and Tessa deserves better than a man who records their private conversations for future blackmail." Dylan's face goes white. "How did you know about the recordings?" "Because I make it my business to know things, just like I know about the restraining order you're planning to file Monday morning." That's for my own protection." "Protection from what? From having to face the consequences of your actions?" I stand up and walk to his window, looking out at the city below. "Here's what's going to happen, Dylan. You're going to pack your things and leave Portland. You're going to delete any recordings or photos you have of Tessa, and you're going to disappear from our lives permanently." "And if I don't?" "If you don't, I'm going to destroy you. Publicly, completely, and permanently. I'm going to expose every lie you've told, every woman you've manipulated, every debt you've hidden. I'm going to make sure that everyone in this city knows exactly what Dylan Reed really is." "You can't prove any of this." "I can prove all of it. Financial records, witness statements, recorded conversations. My sister's very thorough, and she's been looking forward to this project." Dylan finishes his whiskey and pours another. "What about Tessa? What happens to her?" "Tessa gets to make her own choices based on accurate information instead of lies. Maybe she'll realize she made a mistake. Maybe she'll decide she's better off alone. Either way, it'll be her decision instead of your manipulation. She'll hate you for this. Maybe, but she'll hate you more when she finds out the truth about who you really are." I pick up the folder and head for the door. "You have 24 hours, Dylan. After that, the information goes public." "Wait." His voice is small, defeated. "What if I can't leave? What if I don't have anywhere to go?" "Then you should have thought about that before you decided to play games with other people's lives." I leave him sitting in his expensive apartment, surrounded by the wreckage of his carefully constructed lies. The elevator ride down feels like descending from a great height, leaving behind the artificial world Dylan created and returning to solid ground. Outside, the afternoon sun feels warm on my face. My phone shows 3 missed calls from Tessa and 2 from Lena. I'll deal with those later. Right now, I want to enjoy this moment, the feeling of a job well done, a problem solved, a war ended. My phone buzzes with a text from an unknown number. "This is Dylan. You win. I'll be gone by tomorrow night." I delete the message without responding. Dylan Reed is no longer my problem. The war is over. Now comes the harder part, figuring out what peace looks like. But that's a problem for tomorrow. Today, I'm going to drive home, pour myself the good bourbon, and enjoy the silence of an apartment that's finally completely mine. The last lie standing has fallen. Everything else is just cleanup.